I think take a long-term perspective. Don't get panicked. Be optimistic because things will get better. And those who have success are those who will make plans and move forward.
You guys, I have been working on something for the last 6 months that has been such a giant project, but I'm so proud of it. I'm excited to announce that I've just released my book. It's called Touch Points, and it's the Destination Marketer's Guide to Brand Evaluation and Enhancement. And it is a comprehensive guide for destinations to look at their brand, evaluate what you've done, and make a very clear and detailed plan of action of how to fix it. And look, I'm biased, right? Because I wrote it, but I think it's so good. I think it's a great guide, and I'm really, really happy with how it turned out. And I wanted to tell you guys about it. It's available on Amazon. Search Touch Points by Adam Stoker, and you'll be able to get that book for your destination. And I think it's going to be, especially for anyone that is trying to look at their brand holistically, this is the book for you. So check it out. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another bonus episode of the Destination Marketing Podcast. As you know, during this time that we're navigating the coronavirus situation, we're trying to bring you as much valuable and relevant content as we can to help you weather the storm. So that kind of spurred bringing on our guest today. I was introduced to his company about a month ago, and I've been watching what they're doing, and especially how they're approaching the coronavirus situation. And I thought, man, we got to get him on the show. So his name is Matthew Godfrey, and he is with CSource. Matthew, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Thanks for giving us a call and asking us to participate.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So even though this is a bonus episode, you're a guest. And so we're going to walk you through some of the questions that we do in every episode. I want to know from you, Matthew, what is your dream destination?
Well, it's every place I have a client.
There's the diplomatic
Uh,
answer. Yeah.
and actually, as we onboard new customers and we learn more about their community, my list is growing. So outside of them, my second place to all of our great clients, probably Israel. I've never been to Israel, and I'm fascinated with the history there, and would love to visit there.
Oh man, that's a good one. I don't know if we've had that one mentioned on the show, but I can definitely see why it would be on your list. You said the history really draws you to Israel. Anything else that really stands out?
No, I mean it's a center place for world history and activity from almost the beginning of recorded time, and so that part of it fascinates me, and the religious aspects of it are dear to my heart and interest me deeply as well.
Great. Great. Okay, I like it. What about your favorite place you've ever actually visited? And I know you feel like you might be isolating some destinations that don't make the cut, but we require honesty here on the show.
Yeah, so probably Lauterbrunnen, Switzerland, which is outside of Interlaken, Mürren, Grindelwald. That area is just spectacular. I was blown away when I went there, and I went the first time with my wife, and we planned a trip with our kids a couple years later because it was such an incredible place.
Okay, so for those of us that haven't seen pictures, or maybe we have and don't know which picture to associate, what's that landscape like there? What made it so impressive to you?
Well, it's the Swiss Alps, but it's a valley that's been carved out by glaciers, and it's this beautiful, quaint farm area down in the valley, and then you have steep rock cliffs, which are filled in with green plants, vegetation, and trees all around it, and then you have these ragged, snow-topped mountains in the background. So it's like somebody painted it. It's surreal. You look at it and you're like, there's no way this is not fake. There are waterfalls all around
Wow.
the valley. As you look at the mountains, there's just waterfalls cascading just about everywhere you look. I don't know that you could look anywhere and not see these waterfalls coming down this verdant landscape. So it is just a remarkably beautiful place, and trails and hiking, and they have gondolas that take you up to these incredible vistas, and trains that take you up incredibly steep climbs. It's just a really remarkable experience.
Okay, and it's Miralagan? Did I say
It's
that correctly?
well, it's called Lauterbrunnen.
I was very far off.
I
Where
think
did
you're
I
just
get
combining.
Miralagan?
Well, there's a place called Interlaken, which is between lakes, which is kind of the gateway. So
Okay,
you kind of head out
I
from
combined them.
there. You go. Yeah, it's a couple hours from Zurich, and it's worth the journey.
Wow. Okay. All right. I like it. We'll add that to the list. And just like my list is getting so incredibly long that I don't know if I could get there in 5 lifetimes, but we'll get as many checked off as we can. Well, tell me a little bit about you and your background, Matthew.
Well, yeah, I was a private sector guy, minding my business. I owned my own companies, and I also worked for high tech early in my career. And my community was really struggling. The downtown was decaying. There were fewer jobs, especially high-paying jobs. Crime was increasing. There's just significant issues. And I went home one day and literally said to my wife, I think I need to run to be mayor of Ogden. I was 28 at the time I had that conversation with her. She thought I was crazy. I'd never expressed any interest in politics at all. I never had any interest in politics, but we discussed it, and we thought I was at a point where I could leave my career, and we felt like, and it was a full time position. So we did it. We didn't necessarily think we'd be elected, but we thought we might be able to help push some issues that would be um, perhaps change agents for the community, even in the process of the campaign. But the crazy people elected me, and so I spent 12 years as a full time mayor, and worked on very daunting issues with an incredible team of people. I'm so grateful for the remarkable crew that also left their careers or dedicated their career to helping us revitalize Ogden and help turn the town around.
And this is Ogden, Utah, right?
Ogden, Utah. Yeah.
Great.
So I did that for 12 years.
Sounds like quite the
Yeah,
experience.
it was extraordinarily challenging, but the team was able to recruit about $1.2 billion of investment to the town. We recruited over 6,000 jobs. We redeveloped about 160 acres of downtown, and tourism was a main pillar of what we did and how we achieved some of these results. So after I left office, decided not to run for a fourth term. I spent way longer than I ever thought I would doing that, and had some cities asking us to help them do similar things. And so we started a consulting company called Better City. And Better City still exists today. It's the parent company of CSource. So CSource is a spin-off of Better City. It's the data side of what we do in Better City.
Great. Great. Okay. So natural transition from mayor to consulting for other cities, and then you've added this product or now a company called CSource and its technology, and we're specifically geared now with this company towards the tourism industry. Is that correct?
Yes, tourism is our bread and butter for CSource. We do provide services to other industries, but we are focused on tourism.
So tell me a little bit about CSource and its capabilities then.
Yeah, well, CSource emerged really naturally from Better City because we do a lot of tourism consulting. Better City is an economic development consulting company primarily, but I've yet to be in a community where tourism was not a piece of the puzzle for economic revitalization and
Absolutely.
enhancement. So as we would come up with strategies to increase tourism, we tended to see two issues with our clients. One is that they um, were overly pessimistic about their prospects, thinking that nobody would ever want to come visit their community as a tourist, and others were overly optimistic, thinking that they already had tremendous success. And so we would gather data to either validate what they were saying, but often to help them understand the reality of the situation, and that allows us to form plans to help them progress and have the kind of success that they're capable of achieving. So we had demographic data, we had some basic tourism data, star reports and things like that. And as the spending data, the credit card spending data was really helpful. But when we added in the psychographic data and the geolocation data, which is cell phone GPS data, that was a game changer. We weren't aware of anyone else that had that amalgamation of data sets that was using it to help communities understand who was coming into town today, how long they stayed, how much money they were spending, where the best tourist markets were for them. I mean, it was really just an incredible set of data. We realized that this needed to be its own company. So it's my focus. So there's a CEO of Better City, and I kind of left them to continue to run that organization, although I still participate. But my focus is on CSource and growing this company, and it's had exponential growth because others see the same thing that we saw, which is that this is incredibly powerful data that can help drive good decisions.
Great. So let's talk about those decisions, because data, I mean, having the data is one thing, right? Knowing what to do with it is a completely different thing, right? So tell me a little bit about how you're able to help destinations use the data that you have access to drive some of that decision making.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, everybody's heard the term big data, and this is big data. And part of the challenge with big data is getting out of the fascination of it and just looking at the data and seeing what it provides and saying, wow, this is really cool and amazing information, and using that data to actually make decisions, to have actionable results occur because of the data. And so that's our focus with this, is that we don't want our clients to have to be data scientists and excise the data. Our goal is to give them information that helps them understand with more precision who's coming to town today, why they come to town, understand the difference between somebody who stays overnight and somebody who just is a day tripper, and by understanding that, being able to spend their time and money focused on the right tourists, so that they see a higher ROI or ROS on their marketing dollars. So yeah, so our focus is in using the data to, at the end of the day, to have more heads in beds and more cash registers ringing in the community, and then measure it. And that's the power of this data, is it's not just about being precise, having precision marketing strategies, which is a main component, but it's also about measuring it and validating what worked and what didn't, so that you can iterate and invest again where we're having the highest return.
Great. Great. And I think a great way to illustrate the importance of the data that you're providing is you're getting a lot of interesting requests regarding the data you're able to curate and provide for destinations during this coronavirus situation. What are some of those requests and some of the things you're doing right now to provide more insight to destinations on how to navigate this?
So just getting back to the core use of this, the whole idea is to spend less money and get more visitors. There's a famous saying that half of all marketing dollars are wasted. The problem is we don't know which half.
That's one of my favorite advertising quotes.
Yeah. So understanding who is coming into town. So I know I will get to your answer, but this is kind of important to set that stage.
Sure.
Because we know who stays in a hotel, we can geofence all of the hotels in town and tell a destination what those demographic looks like. We put them in a bucket for them. And so we can say, these are their demographic attributes and their psychographic attributes. Psychographics are basically their consumer behaviors, is probably the easiest way to describe it. And with those data points, we can look for commonalities. So, again, big data has a capability of sorting through massive amounts of data and saying, and this is kind of the learning part of it, the artificial intelligence or the computer learning that takes place. It's able to go through that and identify these commonalities. And so we can say these 15 attributes most closely align with somebody who stays overnight versus somebody who doesn't. We can also analyze and determine what venues the people who stay overnight are more likely to visit. And so it's not just about identifying one group, it's about identifying multiple groups and understanding why they have their various reasons for staying overnight and what venues are attractive to them. Because with that kind of detail, we're able to market not just a community as a whole, but specific venues to specific people and during specific times of the year. There's seasonality to who comes into town and why. And so by being able to break these down into very small groups, we're able to, with more precision, go after the target customer and then again measure and make sure that we're getting the results from that target group that we want to see. So we also have access to their advertiser IDs, which allows our clients to place ads right to the mobile devices of these target audiences that are created. So we create a persona, and then we can create a lookalike audience. So find other people like them that live in the same distance from the venue, that have the same psychographic and demographic attributes, and then we can place ads to those people as well. So that's how we help people in a healthy environment, find people and bring them in. So right now, because we have this data, there are some things that we can do to help. One thing is we've had actually states call us and say, can you help us put together a dashboard that tells a story about the devastation that's being realized now in the tourism industry? And so we're doing that at cost for all the states who are wanting it, and we're tracking the decline in visitors over the past couple months, and then year over year for the past several years. So we're showing the story both in feet on the ground, who's not showing up, and then also with spending data. So that's something we're doing immediately to help the states tell the story. And what I'm being told is that data is being used by the state and federal government, mostly the feds, to create some stimulus package assistance that will hopefully get the industry up and running as soon as possible. So that's one piece.
Okay, Matthew. So that's really interesting to me. So I'm going to ask you a follow-up question there. So let's say I'm a destination and I have visitors, or not visitors, excuse me, I have stakeholders who are feeling that impact and want to apply for this relief that President Trump has announced. And it seems like the relief fund is actually getting bigger and bigger every day. If I need to paint the picture of the loss that we're experiencing, what you're saying is the data that you provide can demonstrate that very clearly in such a way that we could probably tell a really good story to get access to some of that relief. Is that fair to
That's
say?
correct. Yeah.
Great. Okay, keep going. Sorry about that.
So the other thing that we're doing now with our clients, and we're willing to help out anybody who would like it, is that when they tell people that it's okay to resume life as normal, and we all know that day will come, and we hope it will come soon because of other solutions to the virus. But when that day comes, who's going to come, and how are we going to get people in? And we know that the industry needs people to come immediately, right? It's not like we can wait for it to slowly build. This is devastating to the industry, and we need to get people to get right back into visiting and getting out and seeing the world. And so, how do we do that? And who are the most likely groups to come in? Well, it's obviously going to be the regional tourists, right? That's the group that's going to come first, or the people who probably are even within driving distance. And so
Yep.
we know who those people are. We can identify the people who have come to town regionally as well. We can isolate that working with a community. The communities typically know that, outside of 50 or 100 miles or maybe 150 miles, people stay overnight and will drive into town, and then they know that there's also a limit that if you go beyond some distance, they're not going to drive in. And so we can dial in that range, create that donut, if you will, of geography where people are willing to come in. Then we can look at that donut area, that geographic landscape of people who are likely to drive and stay overnight, and identify, again, their demographics and psychographics that align them with other visitors who have come into the community, stayed overnight, and visited some of the attractions that they have in the community. And so, with that data, we can create a plan and have ready advertisements, a whole marketing plan. And because we have the advertiser IDs, we can get everything set up so that when it's time to go again and resume life as normal, there's a campaign ready to grab these likely audiences or visitors and place the ad and entice them to come in right away.
Got it. It's funny you bring up regional and drive markets, because I released a special episode of the show late last week with that exact point, is that your low hanging fruit during this time is building relationships with your regional audiences that might have gotten neglected over the last couple years or whatever, when you're getting more and more international and far reaching travelers. What a great opportunity to identify those markets even more clearly and target them with a campaign when things turn around, or even now, encouraging them to maybe not come right now, but when things free up to come back. And so I think that's a really interesting point. Data gives you a lot of power, and helps you understand a lot of things that you need to do. But tell me some of the mistakes that people are using when trying to use data to make decisions.
Well, there's a lot of bad data out there.
Tell me
there's,
about that.
well, there are some ad companies, there are other just data providers that will use data that comes from the internet. So they will take the information that's available to identify the location of a desktop or a laptop computer, and they'll assign a geographic area to it, and then they will use cookies and other things to try to identify attributes about that person in that area and pass it off as geolocation data and demographic data, when the industry broadly recognizes that that kind of data is wildly inaccurate, because there's no precision to it. GPS, cell phone GPS data, which we use, is very accurate. You can get down to 3 meters is what they say is the most accurate, and you can kind of depend upon. So, and 3 meters is kind of the lowest mark, and but your margin of error, your ability to zero in is much tighter with geolocation data. And you can comply, our vendors comply with all of the new regulations and the anticipated coming regulations for privacy. So we anonymize that data, but are able to connect to it household level data, because we don't have those households, but we have the data. So to us, it's anonymized. We just know that there's device XYZ and these are the attributes associated with it, but we don't know who these people are. But it provides us a mechanism for advertising to them. So one is, there's a lot of garbage data out there, and so being very careful to make sure you're getting good data that will actually produce a result is number one. I think the second largest problem is that people don't use the data. They have it and they look at it and it's really cool, but it's not being used to lower their costs, to give them more precise groups to market to. And then there's no measurement going on afterward with what they're doing. And to a large measure, it's not their fault, because the data they're receiving doesn't really give them the level of detail necessary to make decisions, or there's so much work that they have to do on their sides to put it together. I mean, they have to be the data scientist that goes in and puts everything together to extract the data, and that can be time intensive. And so they don't end up doing it because they're busy. And so, because if it's cumbersome and difficult to excise the data you need to make actionable decisions, and then they don't do it.
Yeah, I've seen that, and sometimes I call it marketing to yourself, where you look at the data, and if the data tells the story that you already kind of had a preconceived thought in your head about it, you'll say, you know what, data backs up my point, as opposed to looking at the big picture of the data and saying, okay, what's the whole story saying, instead of picking out bits and pieces that support what you already thought. And I think that requires a real open mind.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So interesting stuff. I think the next question I would have for you is just as people are navigating the challenging times that we're dealing with, give me just your overarching advice. And this may tie into data, this may just tie into attitude, it may tie into your experience as a mayor for 12 years, right? But just what's your recommendation for everybody that's kind of scrambling to figure out what's the right thing to do right now?
Um, I think take a long-term perspective. Um, don't get panicked. Be optimistic because things will get better. And those who have success are those who will make plans and move forward, and believe that things are going to get better, and are making taking the steps necessary to be successful. It's easy to wring hands and worry about the worst case scenarios, but I think history proves out that those that have success are those that move forward and identify opportunities even in a down market and determine to be successful, with the cards they're dealt. So I think it's more about just staying positive, being optimistic, and working hard to find those opportunities.
Well, I think that's great advice, Matthew, and thank you for sharing. I think it's good perspective for everybody that's listening. Uh, Tell us for CSource, what's next? Where are you headed?
Well, we our goal is really just to help the tourism market, especially now. We are refocusing given what's happening. Our goal is to help people save money. We think we can help the industry spend less money and have vastly more information to be successful. So we're retooling what we're doing, our approach, even pricing and services, to kind of anticipating what's going to be coming down the pipe. So what we were anticipating doing, what was next for us 2 weeks ago, is very different now. We think we have to reposition as a company and be a resource for the industry to shoot like a rocket out of this mess once that opportunity arrives. And I think that's going to require us to have different data to help make that happen, and different price points to help more people. Are going to have less money, right? There's going to be this time period where there is no room tax that's coming in,
Yeah,
and we need to recognize that, and that, which means that we're going to be less profitable, and we have to, in order to help the industry come out of this and get back to normal as quickly as possible. So we're working on a lot of new features that will continue to make it easier to um, to find the best markets for any particular destination, and to market more cost effectively to those groups.
great. And for those of our listeners that want to find you and learn more, especially about what you're able to help with during this time, where do they go? Where do they find you?
Um, well, I love to be involved, so you are welcome to call my cell phone. As the owner of the company, this is not a huge industry, and you are anybody is welcome to call me and chat, and just see if you want to know what we can do to help out and how we can be a resource. I'm happy to chat with anyone. So 801-920-0000 is my
You might
cell
have
phone.
the best phone number of anyone I know.
It's nice, except when you call people for the first time, they always think I'm a telemarketer. So I have to always call and leave a message before they answer. That's the problem.
Good point. And what about online? How can people reach you?
CSource, SEESOURCE.com.
Great. Great. Anything I haven't asked you that you think our audience would like to know before we let you go?
Well, we discussed as a team yesterday, and decided that we are going to guarantee CVBs, DMOs, and states, state departments of travel and tourism, that we will reduce your price. If you're whoever your provider is that isn't us, we will reduce your prices a minimum of 40%. And we have found that with many of them, we reduce it up to 80%.
Wow.
We know, again, budget's going to be a big deal, but we will guarantee at least a 40% savings if you come to our platform, and I think you'll be very impressed with the data. We've been told by our customers that it's better data than they're getting before, easier to access. The answers are there because it's all customized. We do customized dashboards, so it's all customized to their needs. They don't have to hunt for the data. So anyway, we hope that will help the audience, that there are people that this will be a blessing to, and we can help them prepare to come out of this stronger and better.
Great. Well, thanks so much, Matthew, for coming on and sharing some of your experience and insight, going from private sector to mayor, back to the private sector, and now serving the tourism industry. You provide a unique perspective, and I appreciate you coming on and sharing all of that with us today.
Thank you. Yeah, I have fond memories of my days, my 12 years on the executive committee of the CVB at that time. It's now a DMO, and I love the tourism industry, and that's why I've chosen to start this company and be involved in it. I believe in it, and I'm optimistic about the future.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for coming on.
Thank you.
Everyone, this has been another episode of the Destination Marketing Podcast. We're trying to bring you as many solutions as we can, especially as you're navigating challenging times. Keep your head up, hang in there, and we'll be in touch.